Alright, so now we're going to walk you through the setup process to make the field to finish work inside of Business Center and Civil 3D. We'll start in Civil 3D and I'm going to break it down into if I need to create a point or when a point comes in, a point being a symbol, how that gets set up inside of Civil 3D, and then I'll show you the same in Business Center. In Civil 3D, again, it's tied to the drawing, and what controls the point's display is the description key set. So I'm going to right click over here and we're going to edit these keys. Now this one has some keys that are there. I can come in and delete these guys so that they're blank, so we'll go ahead and do that. Let's go back to edit keys. So if it's blank, it's going to come up say new description key. If we need to create one, we can just come in here and create new, and it'll create a new description key set. So the first thing we do is we come in and we give it a name. We call it CP. Usually you put an asterisk after it so that the crew enters in CP and any additional parameters, or CP and maybe a point number, that when the file comes in the business or in the Civil 3D, it will find CP. So anything that starts with CP, any code, it gets picked up. Now in Business Center, to create a new file, just like a description key set, we're going to come in here, we're going to say new file. But again, remember, this is external to any project or the software. We're going to start by adding a new point feature definition, and we'll call it CP, or we'll call it control point. Alright, that's the name, and then the code would be CP. We don't have to put the asterisks in here. Back over into Civil 3D, this name would be the format. So here for the format, we'll call it control point. Now you can do some other things with that format as well, but we're just going to try to keep things similar here between Business Center and Civil 3D. For the category, this is something that only Business Center provides, Civil 3D does not, so we're going to call this control. So what we can do is group our points into certain categories. For the layer, we want to set it on a layer, so we can put it on points, but we want all these to go to a control point layer. And actually, we'll do the naming convention. So it's v-ctrl-hcpt for horizontal control point. For the color, we want that to be let's go creating the layer color. So we'll pick this layer color, and we'll leave the line type the way it is. So we created a layer, and we want the color of the symbol or the point to be by layer. And we can include this in a surface if we'd like to, but we're not going to. We're going to click OK. So that created the control point, but not the symbol. It's just got the point there. Just like we did here, we got the control point set up in Civil 3D. Now to get the symbol, what we have to do in Business Center is right click down here and enter a new symbol, and that symbol will be control. You can call it control point here. You can give it a description if you want, and then you got to choose a symbol. Now in this case, in Business Center, the symbols can be stored out into a library. So we're going to go to the symbol library, or we can pull them from any AutoCAD drawing, DXF or DXF file. So we use the symbol library that ships with the software. We'll import all those symbols so we can use other ones, and we'll come down here and we'll grab this triangle with dot. Okay. Now here we can tell it where to get the color for the symbol, which is by layer, and you can tell it how to place that symbol as far as rotation and scaling. We'll click OK. So that's our control point and the symbol. Now you can add additional attributes in here, where I can add in a new attribute, which would be additional information about that point. So maybe it was a power pole and we had the pole number. Other information about maybe a size of the object associated to a file or a photo. Okay, but that's pretty much all you got to do in Business Center. Back to Civil 3D, to get the symbol in and other information, you have to now come over and actually define a style. So if I click on this and go to here, these styles are part of the shipping template, but let's say that those styles didn't exist and you had to create one. Well, you'd have to come over here to this point style picker. You would come in here and we would call this control point. or whatever you want to call it. The marker is where you select the symbol that's going to be displayed when that point gets brought into the software. Now you can use a couple different combinations. We want to match this, so we're going to find the triangle with the dot symbol, and these are blocks. Now these blocks have to reside inside this drawing for me to actually even find them. If they're not in the drawing that I'm working in, then it's not going to find them. So again, going back to Civil 3D, the description set is tied to a drawing, and usually you save this drawing as a template, and you always start your project with that template, or your drawing with that template. But you could have two different templates with two different description key sets. With Business Center, the description file is separate from the project and can be imported at any time. So here, back to this, you give it the style, the block, and then you tell it how to size, what its size and rotation is here. Now there's a couple other parameters, such as what to do with the Z value, or the symbol. It can either go to the point elevation, or it can go to a exaggerated point elevation, or just any point elevation. You could say I want everything set to 0 if you wanted to. For display, now you have to come in and tell it what layer you want the symbol to be placed on. So here I'm going to come in and we want that to go to that same layer. So here's where I can control the layer. So that's going to be that horizontal control point. The layer in that case is already set up. If it wasn't set up, you would define a new one, where you would come in and give it the name and color and line type and whatnot. You can override the color to be a set color, or we can set everything by layer. And you can control that based on different views. So again, there's quite a few settings parameters, but this is the point style. So this point style, what I'm doing here, is based on this description key. When the point comes into the drawing, it looks to that style and assigns that style to that point. Now for a label, you would come in here, and that is something Business Center or Civil 3D has, is this label style. So the label style you have to set up to display what information you want to display for that point, whether you want to see the northing and easting, or the default description, or none. So if I set none, that is a style that has to be set up over here, where you can come in and configure what that point style looks like. Okay, so we'll leave it at none, so no displays. Now there is another layer field, and what this does is you come in, and depending on how you want to set it up, you can do a couple different things. We're just going to set it to the same layer as what the style is set to. And then these parameters are set up, but for those parameters to work, then you want to scale them based on the parameters that are coded in. So the crew would have to type in CP 10, 20, and that CP space 10 or CP space 20, the 10 and the 20 would be parameters 1 and 2. The first code is parameter 0. So you can have up to 9 parameters that can control how that point is scaled or rotated. So a couple different options there. But that's what needs to be set up in Business Center, or I'm sorry, in Civil 3D. And in Business Center, like I said, you're just setting the control point. Everything is right here in one location for you to set up. Next, we'll look at setting up a line code, or a line for Business Center and Civil 3D.